Good morning, and thanks for joining our UI Virtual Town Hall. This is an opportunity for us to provide updates on a number of topics and then answer a few questions. We do have quite a few people joining the town hall today, so we won't be able to get to every question, but we will certainly do our best. We will be answering online questions and questions from those who are calling in. If you're on the phone, please press *3 so that our agents can unmute you and you can ask your question. Before we get started into questions, we wanted to provide just a quick update on the state of unemployment benefits in Colorado. But before we do that, let's go over the agenda briefly. Today we'll talk about the status of unemployment benefits. We will talk about the deployment of our new system, MyUi Plus. We'll update you on implementation of the Federal Benefit Extension Program, known as the Continued Assistance Act, a quick update on identity theft and fraud, and then we'll go to questions. In Colorado, we've paid more than 1 million people $6 billion in unemployment since mid-March. The CARES Act, which is the federal program allowing benefits for gig workers, independent contractors, and self-employed. That program is known as PUA. The Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program that provides additional weeks of unemployment for those who exhaust their regular unemployment, and the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program, which provided an additional $600 a week to every eligible UI claimant. Those programs expired on December 26th. On December 27th, the Continued Assistance Act was signed into law, extending those programs, and we'll be getting into a little more detail on the Continued Assistance Act further on in the presentation. The MyUI online benefits system is a new system that was deployed on January 10th. For those of you who were participating in the PUA or PEUC programs, this was the system that you were using to manage your claim, file a new claim, request payment. And so for you, this system looks pretty familiar because you were already in the existing program. On January 10th, we migrated all regular UI claims into that PUA system. So the entire application now is known as MyUi Plus. Some new functionality came with the deployment of this new system. A single unified system obviously helps us administer benefits, especially those federal benefits, with greater ease than using our 30-year-old legacy system. It's designed to be easier to navigate. Claimants have the ability to view full claim information on mobile devices. And the main difference for the regular unemployment claimants is requesting payment on a weekly basis versus biweekly. And that is a big change for our claimants who are receiving regular UI. Right now, our third party, our PUA call center, the PUA and PUC claimants may have utilized this in the past, is now available to answer general questions about MyUI Plus, answer technical questions, and it actually has received over 68,000 calls since we deployed the new system on January 10th. Some feedback we received on the new system since go live: succinct, quick, easy to navigate, and user-friendly. Again, simple to navigate and made more sense in the old system, and very efficient and complete experience. But we did receive comments from a number of users on areas where claimants were experiencing some confusion, and we wanted to just address what the main themes were and what we did to address some of the issues pretty quickly after deployment. Of course, and we know many of you joining the webinar, if you were a PUA or PEUC claimant, you likely, when you logged into the system, could not see a weekly certification option. And that is because those benefits, which we'll talk about later, at the time of deployment were not available to Coloradans yet because additional system reprogramming needed to be completed to begin administering those programs. So as of today, if you log into MyUI Plus and you were receiving PUA or PEUC, you will not see a weekly certification option. We did experience some password reset and email confusion. Again, for many of our regular UI claimants, this is a brand new environment. One of the feedback areas that we received were about emails. And so users were required to remember the email they were using in the MyUI claimant system to log into the MyUI Plus system. We migrated all of those emails over from MyUI claimants into MyUI Plus. But again, if a user did forget their email, we have the call center available to assist with that. The other feedback area we received quite a few comments on was the password reset function. So it's important to note, first-time logins need to choose forget password. The password is resent to the email on file. It's available as a reset option for 12 hours. So it is really important not to choose forget password multiple times because it will create issues. And then lastly, upon deployment, we were noticing that some email providers were throttling or holding back delivery of our emails, specifically Yahoo and AOL. And so we worked with those email providers to address capacity issues, and we hope address some of the delays in delivering those emails. Another area of feedback, account holds. So if you are a regular unemployment benefits claimant, there is a chance that because of the fraud triggers that we had in place in the MyUI Plus system, that now we're applying to regular claims, you have an indication in your claim that you have a hold. You may see a program integrity hold. And this means that the profile of your claim met one or more fraud indicators. Our instructions to claimants who are now seeing a program integrity hold is to call the call center and will be routed instructions on our new identity verification process. It's important to note that claimants who refuse to participate in this identity verification process or don't complete the entire process will not have holds released for payment. So it is really important, if you have a hold, report it to us, that then you wait for further guidance and complete that identity verification process. Next, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague to speak in the next few slides about the status of the federal extensions of benefits.
All right, good morning, and thank you all for joining us. And hopefully these next few slides will answer some of your questions and provide you some updated information related to the federal extensions of benefits that were signed by President Trump on December 27th of 2020. So a reminder here that this actually impacts and extends both the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, PUA, that was primarily used by gig workers and the self-employed, and also extends the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program, which was, again, the extension after you have exhausted all of your regular state benefits. Both of these programs are extended by an additional 11 weeks of benefits, and these programs are currently extended through March 13th of 2021. The CARES Continued Assistance Act further reintroduced the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation FPUC program. If many of you remember, when that first came around, it was additional $600 per week. This version of FPUC provides an additional $300 per week for those 11 weeks. In other words, the weeks of beginning December 27th of 2020 through the week ending March 13th of 2021. The Continued Assistance Act further has introduced a new federal mixed earners unemployment compensation program. This is primarily for individuals who both had gig employment and regular state employment, had sufficient qualifying wages to file or be required to file a regular state unemployment insurance claim, and therefore were not receiving a benefit calculation based off of all of the work that they had done. This program provides an additional $100 a week to those who are receiving the regular state benefits and lost self-employment income. There is a requirement to provide information establishing that you had over $5,000 worth of that self-employment income to qualify. The bill also made several changes in the programs that were extended, which included identity verification requirements, and that was specifically for PUA. We are continuing or currently expected to roll out Continued Assistance Act in phases, with the first phase beginning late next week. So these are broken out in a manner to try to do them as quickly as possible and impact the most people as possible. So thus it's required a series of rollouts. So the first rollout will be for PUA and PEUC claimants who still had benefits available on their claim at the time that the programs ended on December 26th. And it will also include the FPUC payments, the additional $300 to claimants in phase one. Those federal pandemic unemployment compensation, or the extra $300 per week payment, is retroactive to December 26th. The individuals who receive that are all eligible claimants. So for those who remember the $600 per week payment, in order to receive that $600, you had to be eligible to receive at least $1 in benefits, whether that was $1 per week in a week on PUA, on PEUC, or on regular state benefits. For individuals related to this, your action required is that regular claimants will receive their benefits along with their weekly certification, so no additional action is required for them. PUA and PEUC will also see the FPUC automatically added to their benefits. Instructions on reopening and reactivating your PUA and PEUC claims will be sent to these claimants by mail next week. The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, or the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, who qualifies for this is active or expired PUA/PEUC claimants who had benefits available when the CARES Act expired on December 26th, as we mentioned before. PUA and PEUC claimants who exhausted all of their benefits will be rolling out in phase two, so that will be later than next week. Action required again is that we will be emailing all claimants who are eligible to reopen, reactivate their PUA PEUC claims next week, and as we continue to roll out, we would continue to notify parties when they are eligible to file. And with that, I will hand it back to Cher.
Thank you. We wanted to touch just quickly before we go to participant questions on the state of identity theft and fraud within Colorado's unemployment insurance program. Criminals are using stolen identities to file fraudulent claims. Unfortunately, what we've seen is an increase in stolen identities being purchased largely through the dark web and then used for a variety of criminal activity, including unemployment insurance fraud. There's not been any data breach at the agency, and again, most of this is a result of having your identity stolen at some point in the past and not being aware of it until somebody uses it to commit a fraudulent activity, including tax fraud, other benefit fraud, and certainly unemployment insurance has been hit pretty dramatically since the onset of the pandemic. We are rolling out a new solution that we hope will help address this increase in fraud called ID.me. ID.me is a federally certified program that will help us identify those who have potentially fraudulent activity in their claim and give the claimant an opportunity to prove their identity, thereby reducing fraud, and resolve these fraud holds more quickly. So if you have, as we mentioned earlier, a program integrity hold on your claim, the option for you is to notify us. We will flag that on your claim, and then we will then provide you with next steps on how to complete the ID.me process. If you are a victim of fraud, we encourage you to please report that to us at our website at coloradoui.gov. We have a very large report fraud banner and a button in the middle of the page. Whether you received a Relia card or a 1099, a PIN, or other correspondence from us in the mail and did not file an unemployment claim, or you're an employer who received a job separation request and has those employees still on payroll, we need you to please complete this form. This notifies our system that we need to deactivate that claim. Early on, we did receive a lot of reports from victims receiving Relia cards in the mail. And so the most important thing to do with the Relia card, because there may be fraudulent benefits on that card, is to deactivate that card. And all of these instructions are on our website at coloradoui.gov. So with that, I think we should just go ahead and take some of your questions by phone and online. There were a lot of PUA and PEUC questions, so hopefully we gave you a quick preview, but we certainly want to get into more detail. If you joined by phone, you can ask a question by hitting *3, and our screeners will open up the line and we'll take your call. Let's go ahead and let's take an online question here. How about this one? And I'm going to give this one to Phil. Margaret Wilcox. Margaret wants to know about her PUA situation.
Sure. So, Margaret, the question is, I was on PUA from March to December, and my claim still says ineligible. It's not showing up as PUA anymore, and nobody knows how to fix that. Margaret, that is because that PUA program initially ended December 26th of 2020. So right now it's going to say you're ineligible because programming is not yet completed related to being able to reopen your PUA claim. Now, again, just a quick reminder, if you still had benefits remaining on that PUA claim, and in other words, if you had not already collected 39 weeks on that PUA claim, either total or partial, then when the first phase rolls out, you would be able to reopen that claim and begin pulling remaining weeks that are on there. If, however, you had exhausted that claim to where you had received benefits for all 39 weeks, you will not be able to reopen that claim, and it will not change from ineligible to eligible until phase 2 of our rollout.
Thank you for that one. Let's see, how about we have a business owner whose business has been impacted by COVID, and she would like to know if she should apply for PUA. Let's have our agent, Rachel, would you like to take that question?
Sure.
Or Phil? Oh, Rachel. Okay, great. Thanks.
Yes, so the question was how to apply for PUA as a business owner?
Correct.
So when the PUA application is re-rolled out, when the program is finished programming, you will be able to see an apply for benefits link. You just go to coloradoui.gov. You should see a link for PUA application. You can also call the PUA phone number 303-536-5615, and they're also able to file PUA claims as well. But again, PUA is still being reprogrammed, so more information will come out once that system is up and running again.
And I'll jump in a little bit here, Chair, for that business owner. If you had not already filed a PUA claim in a prior version, you will need to wait until rollout number 2, which is not the rollout that will be occurring later next week.
Thank you. Let's go to a call on the phone. Let's try Tony has a question about 1099s for PUA claimants. Tony, if you hit *3, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question. Perhaps not. Okay, let's go back to an online question. So, claimant wants to know, Thomas, his claim is on hold. He hasn't gotten a payment. What should he do to get the payment issued? How about Andrea on this one? Do you have any advice for Thomas? Can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry. The question was his payment is on hold. He hasn't gotten a payment, and what should he do to get the payment? could be a program integrity hold?
There could be multiple issues why the payment's on hold. What program? Are we able to ask some questions? We kind of need to know what program he's on to be able to better assess.
Actually, we can. Yeah, let's unmute him. Thomas, for your question, if you hit *3, you can unmute and ask your question.
I've already pressed *3, but do I need to do it again?
No, we hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just needed to know, like, what do I go from to get on there? Like, what site? I mean, I'm on the site, but I just need to know what I do more than that.
What program are you on, Thomas?
Just the regular.
Just the regular one, I guess. I've been unemployed since November.
But your payment just got held up
after
the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it just got, after I just sent in everything, but the last 2 weeks it just got held up, I guess.
It could be a variety of reasons. Your best bet would be probably trying, unfortunately, to call customer. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was thinking that because of that Martin Luther King and the thing like that, everything was delayed, but that's not a problem, right?
Does it say that there's an active issue on your claim that's preventing it?
So it says payment hold.
No, it just says payment hold, that's all.
Hey, I can jump in a little bit.
Yeah,
Tony, you're able to access your account on MyUI Plus, though, correct? Because that's how you've seen payment hold.
Yes.
Okay. And in the left-hand navigation, are you able to track through that left-hand navigation to find a drop-down that says eligibility issues? I believe it's view and maintain, and then it's under there.
Towards the top, or?
Yeah, on the left-hand side, towards the top.
Yeah. All I have is my home page, inbox, correspondence, contact, employment history.
Yeah, you got to keep going through that left-hand navigation until you can find something that talks about eligibility issues. You will click on that.
No, you're approved.
It says I'm approved. It just,
your claim status.
it says I'm active and I'm approved, but.
But it still says there's a payment hold. So what we would look for is what's the nature of that payment hold. So there are a series of, if we moved you over from the state system, in our old state system, we did not have the capacity to place some of the fraud holds on claims based on characteristics of a claim. So it is possible that it is that. If that is the case, we would ask you to ultimately provide some identification so we can verify your identification. Ultimately, parties that may have that type of hold are going to be asked to go through that ID.me program to clear that out. It is possible, a couple of other things here, Tony, is did you previously not have to make any job contacts?
Right.
Okay.
Do I have
and
to?
So then when you first
Oh yeah, I previously didn't have to, and now I do 5 a week.
Okay. So then when you first went through and you were answering the questions for your certification receipt payment, then did you have to tell that system that no, I did not make any work search?
No. I've been putting 5 jobs a week.
Okay. All right. So it should not be that. It is, Tony, it's most likely a program integrity hold. But if you have time and you're able to find eligibility issues, okay, and if you go over the screen, you're going to look for a filter and look for all issues and keep scrolling through issues. And if you find one that says program integrity, then that would be one of those fraud holds that ultimately ask you to contact us again to provide some of that additional information. Again,
and then
we are hoping here as we roll out ID.me to ultimately start contacting parties who have those holds, provide them the link to ID.me to go through that process that will then allow us to more quickly clear those holds. Unfortunately, as we try to cut down on fraud, Tony, this is a learning experience. We have to continue to adjust our fraud holds. So sometimes we catch more innocent people than what we're looking to catch, right? Our preference would be to never catch an innocent person and only catch up the fraudsters. But we again continue to look to update and improve on those. But that, if I had to take a wild guess without being able to look at your claim, that is probably most likely what the issue is, Tony.
So can we move on, Thomas? And the number to call, the call center, is at our website, and we can have an agent assist you with further explaining what the program integrity hold is and what you need to do. And the call center number is on our website, and I'll share it here once we get to the next question. I hope that helps. Good luck. Let's go to an online question. Rachel, can you take Pamela's online question she submitted?
Sure. So Pamela asked, why did my status go from active to inactive since this UI Plus started? So in general, the way that unemployment claims stay open is by requesting payments on schedule. So there's a good chance that Pamela was potentially on an extension program like PEUC, SCB, or PUA. And during the migration, since those programs ended as of December 26th, if you haven't been able to request payments because those programs are being reprogrammed, it could have caused the claim to go from an active status to an inactive status. But that's not to worry. Once the extensions are programmed, you'll be able to reopen your claim. As we've mentioned, back payments and FPUC will be available. But ultimately, that's the reason, is you likely haven't been able to request payment yet, as the programs have been in the inactive status as well.
Thanks, Rachel. Let's go to a caller. Tina has a question. Her question is about work search requirements. So Tina, if you can unmute yourself by hitting *3, we'll have our screeners have you join the line. Are you there, Tina?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you. You want to go ahead
great.
and ask your question?
Yeah, so my question has to do with work search requirements. On the new system, it has a space where it's asking to fill out those work search fields. So is that required to recertify, and how many work search activities are required?
Who wants to take this one?
I'll try to grab it, Share. So, Tina, good question. I'm going to ask you one question first. Prior to this question, when you were on the state benefits side, were you required to make a work search at that time, or were you considered job attached?
Was required to do work search. I had requirements for work search, yes.
Okay. All right. Generally, we inform parties that we believe you are best served if you were making 5 work search or conducting 5 work search activities per week. That does not necessarily mean that all 5 are seeking work, right? You could be looking to update certain skills online, registering online, using various network services, right, to get out there and updating a resume. At this point, all we're really expecting people to do or that are required is to at least submit 1 at this point in time.
Okay, and then is it required to fill out the work search field? Because on the new UI system, it has a section, so it has a certification section where you certify, and then it has a work search requirements section, and then it has a summary section. Are those all 3 of those fields required to be filled out to certify?
Yeah, you need, correct. Yeah, you would need to provide an example of your work search there. So again, right, part of that work search could be is that your example is that you were updating something online, right, LinkedIn profile, or you went to ABC Corporation to seek work, spoke to Joe, or filled out an application for XYZ Corporation.
Okay, and then you guys are going to give the information for the fraud indicators of who we're supposed to contact for that, if we have a hold?
Correct.
We will.
Direct you and we'll give, again, the call center number here again a little later for you. And again, at some point here, we were hoping to actually proactively send individuals links to ID Me to use that. But in the meantime, yes, we would want you to call in so we can work through that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. I do have the number for that call center, and we will give it out a few times before we conclude the town hall. It's 303-536-5615. Let's go ahead and go to another caller. This individual, let's see, doesn't have access to a computer. I think we may have just answered that question, but Valletta, let's make sure we got your question answered. And you need some help requesting your payment. Valletta, do you want to go ahead and ask your question? No? Okay, let's go to the next one here. Let's see. Let's go to an online question. Rachel, do you want to go ahead and respond to Phil's online question he submitted?
Sure. So Phil says that he is currently enrolled in the Colorado Workshare program, and ever since we've moved over to the MyUI Plus system, he has not been able to request his weekly payments. It tells him a message that he's currently under the Workshare program. So Phil, the reason that you haven't been able to request payments in the new system is now for individuals who are in the Workshare program, the employers are actually responsible for the payment requests. So do be sure to get with your employer just to, check in with them, make sure that they're aware of this change. They can contact our employer services if they have questions. But that is the reason that you cannot request payments under Workshare. It is now the employer who will be doing those payment requests on your behalf and their employees' behalf.
Thanks, Rachel. Let's go back to a caller. Let's try and bring on Marilyn in Colorado Springs. She has a question about PUA and PEUC, and this is a very, very frequently asked question. Obviously, we have folks who are in desperate need of these benefits. So Marilyn, and Phil, maybe you can help Marilyn out with an update on the PUA and PEUC payments.
Correct. All right, so
If she joins. Marilyn, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Thanks for joining. Would you like to ask your question?
I would. So from my understanding, the MyUI Plus will be available towards the end of next week for both PUA and PEUC claimants. Is that correct?
I'm going to ask you another question, though, Marilyn, because, again, remember we discussed it has to roll out in phases. So were you already on PUA or PEUC?
Yes, and I still had a balance.
And you still had a balance. You had not received a full 39 weeks. Okay. So with that being the case, you should be an individual who is within that rollout number one. That would be late next week. That then would allow you to go in, reopen your claim. And then we are providing that those claims would be backdated. So rather than having to request a backdate, you're supposed to be able to backdate it right there. So then it would provide the ability to certify payment requests for prior weeks, beginning effective December 27th, right? And then remember, as long as you're able to do that and you are eligible for benefits during those weeks, that will also include that FPUC, the additional $300 payment. One other question for you. Do you have an email on file with us?
Yes, I do. So we'll be receiving notifications via email?
Yeah, you will receive that notification primarily by email, right? It's a quicker way to get it to you, and then you'll know a lot quicker than by snail mail. And as soon as you know, then you can go in and reopen the claim and start doing your certifications.
Now, will we be required to go in like the other individuals were that are on regular unemployment and do the whole choose forgot password so that we can access the system?
If you have not yet accessed the system, yes, you have to do the forgot password, so then you'll get your new password. Now, a couple of things we didn't mention in the slideshow you'll need to look for, right, is sometimes those emails like to go to your spam folder, depending on how your spam folder is set up. So if you do that request and you don't see the email, you also want to check your spam folder. I believe it comes from, it's either alerts-CDL or CDLE-alert.
Okay, and have you worked out the kinks now for the individuals that are on like a Yahoo account so that we'll actually get that email?
Yeah, Yahoo and AOL have stopped throttling our emails that are coming out. I believe, right, with what we've seen with certain fraud, they probably believed those were spam emails initially, and so we had to reach out to those providers and notify them so they would take the throttle off of our emails.
Okay, and then one more question, I'm sorry. So individuals that are on the PUA or the PEUC, when the FPUC gets rolled through, we won't have to do anything additional for that extra $300 a week once we are able to file our weekly claims. That $300 will automatically roll in.
Right. All you have to do is your weekly certification, right? And as long as you were eligible for at least $1 in payment on PUA for that week, then you will receive the $300. That's all you have to do is actually the weekly certification.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn. I wanted to just circle back to the question. I don't think we were able to bring her on the line. We had a caller who said, if you don't have access to a computer, what's the request payment phone number to request payment? And that number is 303-536-5615. We'll give that number out again throughout the call here. Let's see. Well, we have somebody who I think is caught up in one of our program integrity holds and is needing some assistance. So let's go ahead and talk to Matthew, wants some help with navigating that hold process. Matthew, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Matthew, go ahead. We want to see what help we can give you today.
Yes, ma'am. I'm pretty sure I'm caught up in the integrity fraud system, and I think you've answered my question with calling the 303-536-5615. I am set up for a callback, but it's not until February 3rd by calling the last four are 900. Now, I'm pretty sure it's an integrity thing because my family, it's a veteran family. We're a tree company, and we worked almost through COVID. However, as it progressed, we lost work, and the company we were with shut down. And we were already receiving benefits, but when we transitioned, every single one of our benefit systems are on hold. So we have zero income right now. And with it being February the 3rd, I don't want to say this, but I mean, I'll pretty much be in the snow for a little while. And so is there any expeditious way except for just waiting for that person to call me back? I've been calling that number for almost 3 weeks. And is there a more expeditious way to do the ID thing, or do I have to wait for that person to call back, or should I call this 303-536-5615 number?
Well, first of all, we feel for you and your family, and we want to get you help as soon as we can. And you have the number correct, the 303-536-5615. Notify them of a program integrity hold. Our priority is obviously to stop fraud, but more importantly, we need to get benefits to people who need them so desperately. So I think you have the information that will get you through the process. Any of my other agents have anything to add for Matthew? I think we were able to. Go ahead, Phil.
I'd love to be able to handle these far faster, right, than we've been able to by having to deal with the call center. Matthew, just a quick question for you. What's your birth date? Just last year.
January 11th, 1976. And I'm a veteran. I've even tried VA, and they can't really help very much either.
Well,
anyway.
Let's see if we can, you've got the number, and Matthew, we'll see if we can connect you with some resources offline here. We have your information, and we'll try our best to help you through this process. So you can maybe stand by a little bit later today. We'll see if we can have somebody connect with you.
And Matthew, I got what I needed. Thank you.
Thank you guys so
So
much for everything you're doing and for putting this together. It's some of us just felt, this is the first time I felt hopeless in my life, and you guys reaching out like this it's helped a lot. Thank you.
Oh, best of luck, Matthew. We'll get you some support here. So take care, and we'll be in touch very soon. Let's see. So we have a lot of questions about ID.me. I think we addressed that in the presentation, but certainly, again, to the previous caller's question, we want to make sure legitimate claims are able to get through the process while we are also at the same time stopping criminals who are stealing money from the state. So ID.me is an identification verification system. Again, what we saw when the CARES Act expired, we saw the criminals who were attacking the PUA system redirect their efforts to regular unemployment, and that's why we're seeing an increase in these holds with regular unemployment claims. ID.me offers a number of solutions for you to go through to verify your identity. There's an identification upload feature, and you can also use a trusted agent, and this person is your go-between to validate confirming your identification. Keep in mind, this is brand new, and so likely what's happening is most folks are caught up in the program integrity holds and have not yet been given the opportunity to go through ID.me. It's important to note that it won't do much good for you to find the ID.me portal without us sending it to you. So please be sure to look out for an email from us, and that's how you'll be able to get through that identification verification process. Again, please do call that call center and indicate you have a hold, and that will put you into the queue so we can get that hold cleared up. Phil or any of my agents, anything to add? I'm going to see if we can find another caller that we can bring on the line.
I think we can move on.
Let's see. Here's one. Can we try and get to Anthony? Has a question about reporting wages and getting wages corrected, and what's the process for that? Can we bring Anthony on the line? And Anthony, it's *6. I think our agents will unmute you if you'd like to answer your question.
Hello?
Hi, Anthony. We've got you on the line. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hello?
Yeah, we have you. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, I have been trying to get my wages cleared up from since October. They only had my wages for the last quarter, April to June of 2020, and part of January through March of 2020. And I don't have any wages showing up from July to October and October to December of 2019. I sent my wage correction sheet in October 20th, and then I faxed my pay stubs and my wage correction sheets several times since then. I have gotten absolutely no response. I talked to somebody on November 19th, and he said that the wages still weren't in there and that I should just keep faxing them. And as of last week, my claim has exhausted. And I have not been able to talk to anybody. Every time I've called for a callback, they say they're not taking callbacks. So I have not been able to talk to anybody or find out why.
Well, Anthony, I'm sorry for your frustration. Let's see if we can get you some help. Do any of our agents have any guidance for Anthony?
I'll jump in again, share. So, Anthony, it sounds like what you've requested is a monetary redetermination by sending in that information. There is a backlog there, a sufficient backlog within that unit, although we have tried to automate portions of that process in order to get this work done and completed. Anthony, if you don't mind, what's your last name?
Warner, W-A-R-N-E-R.
All right, and I may need one other thing. How about a date of birth?
January 6th, 1965.
Okay. All right. To the extent that we would have the ability, we might be able to look and see if we can have a party reach out to you to see where we are at in the process. The one thing I don't necessarily want you doing is continuing to fax that same information over and over and over again. I think parties have told individuals to do that, thinking they're helpful. That's actually what has resulted in part of the backlog. So if you get 5 or 6, from one individual, you're not sure which one you're looking at, and it sort of chokes the whole process out.
Okay.
So we'll be able to have somebody circle back with you, Anthony, and see what we can do to get some resolution on this one.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Thanks for calling in. We have an online question about work search. I think it's a good question. And the question is, what is work search verification when you are union attached? Who wants to take that one? Andrea or Laura or Rachel? Anybody have an answer to that one? Or my go-to, Phil?
This is Andrea. When you are union attached, and maybe they might be able to speak, when you are union attached, you shouldn't have a work search because your union is looking for work for you. So is it giving you, is it requiring you to put in job contacts? Is that what your ask is? Because the system shouldn't be asking that.
This one came in online.
Okay,
yeah,
so maybe your union attachment expired. So if you're not if you don't return to work within 16 weeks, then your union attachment will expire, and then the system will require for you to look for work. So that might be what happened. If you're required to look for work, excuse me.
I will add a little more on share. I'm unaware as to whether we've had the same issue with union attachment, but I do see that there were a couple other questions related to all of a sudden a work search on parties. So individuals who had been job attached in our old state system, when we converted over to the brand new system, that data would not appropriately convert over. So several individuals who had a job attached status right now, currently all of a sudden are being told they need to make a work search. So this is a known bug that we are trying to work on with the vendor. However, on your claim, you should be able to request job attached status within your claim in the left-hand navigation. So you would try to request it there to put it on the brand new claim. If you are job attached, you also have to be able to provide a return to work date related to that job attachment. Understanding what Andrea told you all earlier, job attachment lasts for 16 weeks. So sometimes you don't always know that job attachment date, but at least if it's within that 16-week period, it can be granted. In the meantime, for the current month, Governor Polis has extended his executive order multiple times. Part of that extension waived the work search requirement. So the system may ask you for a work search. You may end up reporting that you did not do a work search. That will create an issue in our system and hold up payment. However, currently we have staff going through to resolve and void those issues to allow payment go out so we can be consistent with that executive order. That executive order, however, is likely to change in February and no longer waive the work search requirement. So if that's the case, then you'll need to be looking on your claim to try to utilize the job attached button to request job attachment in this new system, pending any fix that we can roll out.
Thank you. Let's go to a caller. Let's bring Elizabeth on the line. She has a question for us. Elizabeth, are you there?
I am.
Great. Go ahead. What's your question?
Well, it's a little bit of a story. I was furloughed as of early December. And I did have some money left in my account. And so I called on the 10th, like I was supposed to, and talked about, what my hours were, which were none. And then I called again on I believe the 17th, around there. And I did call in, and I proceeded to get a check or money in my account for $16. After that, I have not been allowed to call again. They said that my unemployment was exhausted. So my question is, what do I do? I am furloughed, which means I will have probably March be able to go back because of COVID. But in the meantime, I have no income.
Well, Elizabeth, it's a difficult position. I want to see if somebody can help guide her through next steps. I would just be guessing, but it sounds like she might be able to benefit from the next phase of PUA or PUC. But Phil or anyone, do you want to take that question and help Elizabeth out?
Excuse me, I do have some self-employment too, on what they called mixed. So I don't know which way to go. Is my thing.
It is confusing. I believe this would fall under mixed earner, Phil. Is that correct? Do we have any guidance for her? Phil or Rachel?
Yeah, I'm going to have to pass that one off to Rachel because my call dropped and I just was able to call back in, so I did not hear any questions. Sorry.
Rachel, I don't know if you're able to help.
Yeah, Phil can help me fill in the gaps. So it sounds like she was on regular unemployment and just exhausted that balance. And now because we're waiting for the PEUC programming, she hasn't been able to collect PEUC benefits yet. So even with self-employment, PEUC is the next step after you exhaust regular unemployment. So it sounds like you will need the PEUC extension first. And having a zero balance, Phil, can you remind Elizabeth when that's expected, since she doesn't already have an existing balance for PEUC?
Right. So, Elizabeth, this is the unfortunate one where it wouldn't be next week for you. You will be in phase 2. Right now, we don't know exactly when phase 2 will roll out, and that would be regardless of whether you could even actually go on PUA or the PEUC. It won't be till phase 2. However, I know it's of little help right now, right, if you're looking for funds right now to pay bills. But at the time that it rolls out, it will allow you to backdate all the way to when you exhausted those claims, provided you exhausted that after the week or for the week ending December 26th or later, because the furthest you can backdate that PEUC will be to that 12/27, and then it'll allow you to certify for all those weeks, be able to receive payment for all those weeks in one shot, including the FPUC, the additional $300. So I know, Elizabeth, it may not be what you want to hear today, but unfortunately that's where you would roll, is in that second group.
So they wouldn't replenish with the $300 with unemployment. Someone that I spoke to on the 5615 told me that they would replenish it. Even Workforce told me.
It would not be until you were eligible for $1 at least in benefits each of those weeks. So if you're unable to file the PEUC claim right now and the claim's exhausted, then each week you're currently eligible or monetarily ineligible for any funds. So it requires that the PEUC and the PUA be programmed in that second phase.
Okay. Wow, that's going to be rough, but thank you.
As I said, I'm sorry it's not good news, Elizabeth, but that is what'll happen related to that. We will have, our vendor is working furiously to try to get all of this stuff done at the same time that we had stood up a new system. I know it is of little consolation, but if we were still in the old state system, we would be talking many more weeks to get it done beyond what it will take within the new system.
Right. I appreciate that. Is
Sure.
your self-employment, though, for the PEUC and the PUA, do you have to have the amount of $5,000 to begin with that you earned?
No, that is actually if at some point you qualified for that mixed earners unemployment compensation. So that would be, again, if you've got that gig employment, you've got regular state employment, okay, and you were required to file your regular state claim, which is now paying you a much lower benefit than if you could have considered both of those as your employment, then you would be one who ultimately would also apply when that's rolled out, which takes even more time to program, because that one's far more difficult to program. If that were the case, you would be able to apply for that at that point in time. That one requires that you establish that if you're trying to include gig employment in order to obtain that additional $100 each week, that you provide proof that you had income from that gig employment that was $5,000 or more. And I believe that's net income on that.
Okay, so that they would count what I made on my W-2 as well as the self-employment?
Correct, because what you'd be looking at is you'd be providing us proof as to what you had in self-employment, right? Your claim is always based on what you had on W-2 employment. And then if there were sufficient there, then it would add an extra $100 on a week.
Okay. Well, have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Best of luck. And look out for communications from us. We'll be communicating to all of the claimants in the additional tiers about timing. We hope to have more idea on timing of phase 2 sometime next week. Can we go to, we have just a few minutes left in our town hall. I wanted to get to one online question and one more caller, and then we'll wrap up. Can somebody take Sue's question about technical support from the call center regarding, looks like email? Rachel?
Yeah,
I'd be happy to. One?
Sure. So Sue asked, will the technical support call center be able to fix a claimant's email if it transferred over incorrectly from the old system to the new system? So Sue, I see there were a couple of other questions about needing to update email addresses as well. My understanding is they don't directly have the ability to update your email address. However, they can submit a ticket, and we are actively working the tickets that they submit. So please, they cannot fix it, but they can submit a ticket. We will review it. We will contact you. So please, when you call the 303-536-5615, do make sure that they submit a ticket for your inquiry. That way we can look at it and get you fixed up.
Thanks, Rachel. Let's take one more caller. Just a reminder for everybody, we had thousands of participants in our town hall today, so I'm sorry we weren't able to address all the questions. We hope that some of this information was useful if you weren't able to get through, and the slides that we went over at the beginning will be on the website, as will a recording of today's town hall. But I'd like to go to Mike, I'm sorry. Mike has a question by phone about 1099. And taxing the 300. So, Mike, if we could bring him on the line. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, hi, Mike. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, question on the 1099. I called a 303-536-5615 number. I was on hold for an hour and 42 minutes before I actually got through. Finally, a gentleman came on. He said, "What's your question?" I said, "Regarding a 1099. He said, "What's a 1099? I have no idea what you're talking about." That was pretty discouraging. But when I started receiving the additional $300, $600 per week over the regular basic unemployment, I called and verified, and I was told that that was not taxable. That was part of the pandemic relief, like the stimulus check. The only portion of my unemployment that was taxable was the base or amount of my unemployment. The additional would not be taxed. And when my 1099 came, it included absolutely everything. How do I get that corrected?
So, Mike, I'll take this one.
Go ahead.
It sounds like when you first called in, Mike, it seems like you were giving us some poor information. So, unemployment insurance benefits themselves are taxable, considered taxable income. The additional FPUC payments of $600 on that were considered taxable income. If you qualified for the POLA stimulus payment, that one-time payment of $375 on your claim, that is also taxable income. And the lost wages assistance is also income that's taxable. So all of those benefits are actually taxable.
I wonder why they told me that, because I would have adjusted my withholding had I known that in the beginning, because I specifically asked. I said, that's going to make a big difference. And they said, no, sir, that's completely different. That's not paid under the regular unemployment fund. That's paid by the federal government under this relief fund.
Do you recall what number you called for that information? I only asked so we can ensure that we don't have parties providing additional bad information to other individuals who up front would have made the same decision that you would have, right? I'll withhold it 4% for state, I'll withhold it 10%, so I don't have to worry about it come next year when I may not have the funds available and may owe. So if you remember the number, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I called just the regular basic. I guess it was the same number. And they won't give a name. Even this one that told me he had no idea what a 1099 was, he said they're not allowed to give out their name or their employee number. They said no manager, no supervisor is available.
Okay. All right. I apologize again, Mike, for the misinformation, and we will make sure we are informing our parties of proper information to begin with.
Pardon me?
I said we will instruct our staff to make sure they are providing proper information, and if they don't know the answer to tell you, they don't know the answer.
Right. So it is all taxable?
It is all taxable, yes, sir.
Also, when we can start, right now I'm in the one where I can't request weekly payment, but hopefully next week that'll change. If we call in by phone instead of computer, is there going to be another number so you don't have to be on hold for an hour and 42 minutes? You call this 5615 and you're going to be on hold for at least that long. And if you had to do that each week, and why did it go to weekly instead of every other week? I think that just increased the workload for everybody. Yes, 2 questions.
Yeah, weekly for some parties will take care of some problems that some claimants have, right? Which is some claimants have a hard time remembering which biweekly period they were on. And so then their claims would close down and they would have to try to get them reopened. So weekly becomes easier. One, for people to remember, every Sunday I need to do this, right? I know that doesn't address for you because you're saying you have to call in. But for a vast majority of people, it means every Sunday they can file that and then they're getting a payment every week on that. So it was believed that it's a little more efficient that way. And again, this just speaks to, again, we continue to work to extend availability by numbers of parties available in those call centers to answer calls, and we will continue to do such throughout. I wish I had a better answer for you, Mike. Then you might have to wait the hour and a half, hour and 45. But we continue to work on that, and we've been continuing to work on it all along.
I would think there would be an automated one like it used to be where you just gave your Social Security number, they asked you some questions, and, that was it. Instead of, actually talking to a live person or whatever, so
there are some
speed it up.
Yeah, Mike, there are some parties that can still call in and do that via IVR to request the payments.
Does he call the 536 number for that, or how would he go through that process? Through the IVR, so.
Sure, I wish I remembered that one. I wish we had Kirsten on the call.
Okay.
For this
well,
one,
Mike,
unfortunately, Mike.
We've been making notes throughout this town hall on ways we can provide better communication to our claimant community. And so we've noted the issue. We may have some customer service training to do, reminders to our staff, and we staff as we're able to, and we know there's a huge demand for help. And we do try and keep those wait times to a minimum, but we know there are surges throughout the week where there's more demand. So I hope you're able to get back into the system without a lot of headache. We do appreciate your call, and I think I at least noted your name and phone number, so might be able to have somebody provide you some additional support. But best of luck. We do appreciate you joining and calling in.
Excuse me, I have the IVR phone number.
Oh, great. Go ahead.
So it's 303-813-2800 or toll-free 888-550-2800.